MyFantasySportsTalk.com.
Well, hello there. Back for another one. My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. You never know when you're going to see us, when you're going to catch us, what we may be talking about these days, but guarantee you the content is going to be there. So check us out, MyFantasySportsTalk.com. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today, just what's going on in the news and the sports world in general, and answer your mailbag questions on this particular podcast. So thanks for submitting them. And we got a couple of regulars here. And we're going to talk some fantasy football. Never too early. This person's already had their draft. So obviously never too early to start talking fantasy football. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Reed. My co-host is Daniel Schalk. He is our founder, president, editor-in-chief, CEO. So he's all that to you guys too at MyFantasySportsTalk.com. What's going on, Dan? I ain't talked to you in a while.
Yeah. Brandon, I like the open of the show. Was that a vampire you were going for? Did you even notice? You seemed a little vampire-ish.
I didn't. I had to rewind it.
Oh, well, watch it again. I liked it. It was something new. Maybe you should start doing.
Oh, like winter the layer. Hey, I can add some blood effects or something too. Okay, all right, got a new theme. Appreciate it.
Yeah, but I'm doing well. I'm baseball season is taking up a lot of my time. The Astros, and when I don't have time for the Astros, I still have a little bit of time to plan that wedding of mine that's coming up. So the countdown is on. We're under 130 days or something like that. So exciting times in the Schalk household.
Wow. The thick of the baseball playoffs is going to be going on during that time.
So here's the dilemma. My honeymoon in Hawaii, 16 days, is in the thick of the ALCS and World Series. So it's already been brought up. It's already been discussed between me and my lovely fiance, and she's rooting against the Astros. We'll say that.
But here's the thing. There's going to be so much relaxation time in Hawaii that it's 16 days. So 2 to 3 hours for a baseball game is not really a lot.
Here's the proposal. Let me see if you think this is fair. The proposal is we can still go to the beach. I won't even be at the bar drinking heavily during the games. I'll bring a radio to the beach. We can lay out, enjoy it, and I'll just have the game right there on the radio. That's the compromise as a future married man that will be willing to do, and I think that's a pretty good one.
Well, I guess here's my question though, Dan. What's a radio?
Well, it would be we're on the radio. We're on radio, so you should know. Maybe we're not. I don't know. We're all over.
Is that what the kids used to call a jam box?
Yes. AM radio I listen to all the time, so I'm old school, but
you don't own a radio.
No, I don't. But it would be played off of my mobile device.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Now everything encompasses video. As long as you carry your phone around, and that's the kind of the weird thing if you think about it, Dan. That now our phone has taken on a whole new meaning. A phone used to be you make phone calls on it. You're also tied to a cord. Now your phone is your entertainment device. I mean, people hardly even make telephone calls on their phone these days. They text, Snapchat, watch video, YouTube, whatever. That's crazy.
Yeah, the lovely technology, but that will hopefully allow me to access the Astros in the World Series because, World Series don't come around often, especially if your team is in it. So I can't miss that. I mean, I understand it's a honeymoon and everything, but it's the favorite baseball team too.
Yeah, there's got to be a compromise there. But like I was saying, 16 days, that'll be a lovely experience in Hawaii. You're not going near any active volcanoes, are you?
No, we are staying on the island of Maui, so that is currently okay, safe to be. But you never know come October, so we'll keep a monitor on it. But I don't think it'll really stop me.
Yeah, nothing can stop the Astros. So, well, good luck to you. I hope that works out. Hey, 16 days in Hawaii, you started off pretty nice to me. So, with a lovely fiance. So, the Astros, if I was rooting for the Astros, they could probably even lose, and I'm still having a really good time there. So, but I just kind of putting two and two together in the dates there, and it's very possible that the Astros will be in the thick of that. Unlikely they get bounced before there, right? I mean, that'd be kind of an upset. So you're going to have something to work out there. But dates rapidly approach. You know, the summer's going to fly by. It always does. So you will be there before we know it. But we got a few questions to answer here. We're going to hear from the Pertons. Nick, anyway. I think Judy's taking a little bit of hiatus. She's got enough to worry about. But and then Gilly Stevens, our man Gilly, is back. I want to chime in with a question, and we're going to open up with some fantasy football. But before we really get into that, Dan, I just wanted to ask you about because one of our questions here kind of got me thinking about the Philadelphia Eagles situation. Now, you've been keeping up with this and what's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles in the White House?
I mean, a little bit. I know probably as much as the next common man, just because I don't even like to click on and read about stories involving our president. It just kind of makes me angry. So, I heard the both sides of the story, and it's
but fill me in. What did it stem from? There was some kind of bogus picture of a player kneeling, or what was going on there?
I don't even understand. I don't even understand that. Fox News brought out something about the Eagles kneeling and saying it was in protest, but in actuality, it was when the Eagles players were praying. So Fox News got in a whole bunch of trouble. They retracted the story, but I mean, ultimately, Trump disinvited or took back his invitation for the Eagles to.
They weren't going anywhere. They weren't going anywhere.
That's exactly the thing. But you can't take back an invitation when only one player. There's been reports of 10, but only one player was confirmed to go, and that was Nick Foles, quarterback. So nobody else was going to go. So I personally think if I'm going to try to attempt to get into that guy's head, is he was like, well, these guys don't want to come. I'm going to be the one that says, no, you're not coming, to try and look like the better man there.
No, he's got it up for the NFL. That is, going all the way back to the denying him ownership of a team back whenever. It's just, I don't know. I didn't even really read the story. It's been going on, so I didn't really know the details of it. So I just kind of wanted to get your take on what exactly is going on here. But and you know what? There's another point here on one of our questions I'll make a little bit later, but it's just the way the world has changed. It's just certain things we know now that we probably shouldn't know and would have never known back in the day. But in the cycle of 24-hour news and whatnot, everything becomes a story. Like who's visiting the White House and whatnot. Back in the day, without 24-hour news cycles and just print media, there wasn't room in the paper for all this garbage. There just wasn't. So I don't know. But anything else going on in the world of sports or anything that you wanted to bring up before we dive into these mailbag questions?
You know what? No, I mean, we're in the slow time of sports, so this is our downtime, our time to catch up. And Brandon, I know you've been taking advantage of that with some, I guess, spring summer cleaning. So no, I mean, the sports world is kind of dead. The NBA draft is going to be a big thing coming up in the next few weeks. The MLB draft is actually finishing up today, but who really cares about the baseball draft? I wrote an article saying how underrated it is, but it's not anything I'm glued to see of who the 33rd round pick in a baseball draft who's never going to suit up in AAA. I don't care about that. So we're in the slow time.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because I do have a couple of interesting sports news notes out of my local area here, right here, Jonesboro, Arkansas. Now, I know you probably don't really know of who this guy was, but there was actually a local kid from Nettleton High School in Jonesboro drafted in the draft. I believe his name, now I'm sorry, I'm going to probably get this wrong because we didn't cover any Nettleton baseball this year, but I believe it was PJ Nielsen. I have to go back and look at my Facebook timeline to confirm that. So I'm sorry. But anyway, local kid right here from Jonesboro drafted in the MLB draft. So that's one thing that I found very interesting today. Proud of that young man. Way to go, Nettleton Raider. But also my company that I work for Ritter Communications, which Tubetown is kind of the production company and local content channel for Ritter Communications. But Ritter Communications is sponsoring a golfer in the St. Jude Memphis golf tournament coming up that is from Jonesboro as well. So athletes coming out of the Jonesboro area here, Dan. I don't know if you're aware, but you are now, and so is the rest of the MyFantasySportsTalk.com nation.
Well, that's pretty impressive, but they don't stack up to Tia from The Bachelor, in my opinion, who, I don't know if you've been watching The Bachelorette. The new season has started. Tia's going to make a guest appearance next week, and there's some intrigue because she dated one of the Bachelor contestants who's trying for Becca's love. What do you think about that?
Wow.
There's a Bachelorette recap within
and I was totally unaware too. So who's the guy that she formerly dated? Is he from this area too?
No, he's actually a former football player of the Chargers, Colton Miller, or Colton something. I don't think it's Miller because he was a draft pick this year. But Colton something, I don't know. But
so here's the thing: where did he play college though? Because I don't know Tia personally. I know probably friends of circles, but so how did she even meet this guy? Is that more reality TV scripted drama that she really date him, or where'd she meet him? I want to know that.
It was all we found out on this week's episode, Brandon, was that it was a weekend in January.
Okay, so I guess she's probably made a little bit of her name for herself now, where a San Diego Charger would probably know who she is instead of a local girl from Wiener, Arkansas. So, okay, that makes more sense. So this is more recent. This isn't like a relationship 2-3 years ago. Okay, correct. Gotcha. Yeah. Makes a lot more sense.
You're going to tune in next week, I know.
Probably not. I didn't even watch the episode, any of the episodes of The Bachelor. Which one was she in? Where are we at now? What are we doing?
Oh, this is Bachelorette. I'm forced to put my Astros games on the iPad while that is on the TV at night, Monday nights. So I'm half paying attention. But Tia caught my eye, so I paid attention to that part.
Okay. So a lot of great conversation there. You folks just found out a whole lot that you probably didn't even ask for. So let's answer questions that you did ask for. The first one comes from Jacob Gurney. I'm in a dynasty league, and I was offered Le'Veon Bell and Evan Ingram for Alvin Kamara. Yes or no? And I guess my first question is, Dan, who proposed this trade? Was that our own Ryan Thomas that wants Alvin Kamara so bad? Weird. But I don't know. This ain't even close to me, Dan. I know you're not really high on Le'Veon Bell, so I'm not really sure how you're going to answer this question. So fill us in. Dynasty league going forward. I guess that makes a little bit of a difference, though. Le'Veon Bell and Evan Ingram or Alvin Kamara. Which side are you taking?
Yeah, I mean, I like this trade. It caught my eye. It made me kind of perk up because, yeah, you're right. I'm not high on Le'Veon Bell, and I am pretty high on Alvin Kamara. Not as much as Ryan Thomas, but I'm getting my fantasy rankings together. And right now, tentatively, I have Kamara as my third running back this season, and Bell is my sixth. So, they're not too far apart. But I'm very high on Evan Ingram. I mean, I was high on him last year. I loved him, and he's my number 3 tight end entering this season.
Not a throwaway player in this trade at all.
Not at all, and especially in a dynasty league. He's so young. He's coming in a second year. He's going to be one of the leading receivers on that Giants team for the next five years, at least in my eyes. I would hate to give up Kamara, but as long as Bell stays healthy, the only thing that I'm worried about is in a dynasty league is Bell's injury history. And not only that, I can see Bell just saying, screw it. I want to smoke pot and rap all day. And he'll walk away from the game at age 28, 29, and see you later. So that's a little scary. Now, I mean, you don't want to look at that, when deciding on a trade, I guess, but it's always in the back of my mind with Le'Veon Bell. But ultimately, I think it's too much that you're gaining, unless you have an elite tight end like a Travis Kelce, Gronkowski, someone like that where you don't necessarily need the tight end. I would be inclined to take that trade. And like you said, Brandon, I'm not very high on Le'Veon Bell, but I think it's Evan Ingram that seals the deal for me.
So here's the thing with me. I'm not taking this trade Never. No, I'm not trading. My desire to have Alvin Kamara is not high enough to ever consider even probably trading him for Le'Veon Bell. But you throw in Evan Ingram, who I think is going to be a big time stud in years to come, and that Giants offense. I'm telling you guys this right now. Look for a complete turnaround now that Ben McAdoo is not the head coach and Pat Shurmur is. I don't even know what Pat Shurmur is or what he's going to be about, but he's not Ben McAdoo, and that offense seemed to fall flat on its face under Ben McAdoo. So I feel if I'm a Giants fan, if I'm a fantasy owner of any of the prominent Giants, I feel very good about a change at guard there in New York as far as the offense is concerned. So like you said, you were out Evan Ingram owner last year. I would have no problem. He's going to be high on my draft board this year as far as tight ends go. I think he's going to be productive. He's not a throwaway player. And I just don't see that much of a gap between Alvin Kamara and Le'Veon Bell. Even if you think Alvin Kamara is going to have a great season, Le'Veon Bell is too, unless he gets hurt. But we can say that about any running back in the NFL. And here's also my theory that Mark Ingram is going to miss first 4 games, first month of the season.
Yep.
When he comes back, they're going to want to use him pretty heavily. They're going to force feed him right back into the action. And not only that, it depends on what their record is. They may need to start using some new wrinkles, some new weapons that they haven't had the first month of the season. So it's not like Alvin Kamara is the number one solo weapon for his team, which Le'Veon Bell clearly is, as far all around. Not only Antonio Brown, yes, but like I said before, I think that the Steelers are going to start pulling back the reins a little bit on the passing game, and I'm finally waiting for that year that Antonio Brown's numbers finally do decrease. But as far as running backs go, Le'Veon Bell is clearly the number one there in Pittsburgh. So I'm just not seeing that gap enough, to take Kamara over Le'Veon Bell even straight up. But like I said, you throw in Evan Ingram, so I don't see it. No way I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean, straight up I would, just because I'm higher on Kamara, and especially in a dynasty league, I think the future years are brighter for Kamara.
That's true. That's underlying the dynasty league part of it.
Yep. But the Evan Ingram piece is, I think, too valuable. I mean, the amount of points. I mean, you just look at the points that Bell and Ingram are going to give you combined. They're obviously going to top what Kamara puts. So to me, unless you have that elite tight end where you don't need to play Ingram every week, I'm definitely, I'm giving up Kamara for those two. But I think the trade was actually the other way around.
He was offered Le'Veon Bell. Jacob was offered Bell and Ingram, so he'd be giving up Kamara.
So yeah, I would give up Kamara for that haul. So I think that's too much to walk away from. Yeah.
Yep, I would agree. That is. I think that's a really good move for Jacob. I'm taking that move all day long. And I just wondered, is Ryan Thomas in that league? Ryan Thomas makes that trade. You think he wanted Alvin Kamara that bad?
Yeah, I mean, that's when he was on our guest the other week. I mean, he said that Alvin Kamara is his number one player in fantasy football, so I would assume he would definitely make that trade. That's a little crazy, but that's Ryan Thomas.
We've got a podcast that I've neglected you guys from, which we'll be bringing out soon, probably within the next week, where now we had an article on the website. Now, I do encourage you to go ahead and check that out on myfantasysportstalk.com, where Ryan Thomas wrote a piece for us saying the number one draft pick in this year's fantasy draft is blah, blah, blah. But it was Alvin Kamara, and he gives a little bit of his explanation as to why before his internet connection or his phone difficulties bit him once again. But we'll bring that podcast out, and he can address that a little bit further. So just a little bit more on that Alvin Kamara situation and his outlook for this coming season. So, but a great question, Jacob Gurney. Appreciate it. So let's move on. Big Papa, Nick Pertins chimes in. What's up, MFP? Being quiet your way, but it's okay. My fantasy baseball team is just hanging on by a limb, and a pregnant Judy is a full-time gig. I joke, but no, really. And I'll take Syndergaard, Brandon. Anyway, I have been keeping up on the Bryan Colangelo scandal and wanted your guys' take. Should he be fired if he found to do those things? I mean, it's very childish, no doubt, but a fireable offense? It's Nick Pertins. So, first of all, Nick and Judy Purton's one of our longtime, probably original viewers of the podcast, fans of the podcast, fans of the site. We appreciate it. Judy is pregnant. They're going to have their first child. She's like two months in now, Dan, would you say?
I am not keeping up with her trimesters, Brandon.
But the thing is, we're going to have probably a little Purtons by World Series time, if my timeline is working.
Yeah. I think that October, November I think they told us when it was due. I'm sorry.
The announcement's been about 2 months ago. It seems.
Anyway, sounds about accurate.
So anyway, that's going on. They're in our fantasy baseball league. That's why Nick was talking about taking Noah Syndergaard from me, which he's been trying all day long, all season long, really. But and you gave me a shot, Nick. Just it wasn't very long on the podcast. I'll try to find the clip and rewind it for you if you like. But you probably heard it originally when it came out of my mouth. Well, actually, when you were dogging me for not taking any trades, I'll never win anything. Well, you were doing pretty good then, but somehow you guys have slipped, and now this guy is the number 2 seed. If the playoffs were to start right now today at 6-3, the Nick and Judy show +1 is down to 5-4. So I think I'm doing all right. I don't know what happened there, but it's a long season. We'll see about that. But I'm going to hang on to my guy, DL or not, for now until I figure it all out. But this Bryan Colangelo situation, Dan, you've been keeping up with that. I mean, the whole thing is just weird. And this, again, I'm going to continue this theme of crap that we probably wouldn't have known about 20, 25 years ago. We wouldn't have, because it wouldn't have existed. There wouldn't have been social media accounts like this. But just another thing that's a big news story over the new age of social media that's just kind of blown up. What do you think about it?
It's kind of crazy to fathom. I mean, I saw a report today that the 76ers are confident that he was unaware of the Twitter accounts. So
let's kind of back up, if you don't mind, Dan. Yeah. You probably know more about it. I just really I heard about it a few days ago, but I didn't really keep up with the story. So give some backstory to it for the folks at home that may not have heard.
Yeah, so basically there are these, I guess, phony Twitter accounts with, random handles. Some of them were just, funny. Some about Sam Hinkie and things like that and the process. But basically the Twitter accounts sent out negative tweets all season, against his players like Joel Embiid and coaches and different things. So it was negative tweets, and supposedly they were sent by Bryan Colangelo, the 76ers general manager. So a whole investigation was launched, and whether or not he knew anything about these Twitter handles, if he was the one sending the tweets. It's a little crazy. The players have spoken out about it, saying this just can't be, but if it is, this isn't right.
But the story he's giving and investigation has somewhat uncovered, I guess, is that it was his wife and not him, or at least that's the story.
Oh, really? I didn't even see that. So that's
he's kind of pushing it on his wife, and I think she's even taken some of the responsibility for it. He actually used the words and said that my wife went rogue. So it's apparently his wife that created at least 2 or 3 of these accounts. There was one that was created that was never even used. So not a story there at all. I really don't care. But it's supposedly that it was his wife who went rogue. There was just some sensitive information that only some of the people in the top circle of the Philadelphia 76ers organization that would have known about. So I can see, Bryan Colangelo going home, venting to his wife about situations. She sees him in distress over that. She gets mad. She gets stressed. She takes to these phony accounts and expresses some things. So I could see that happening, but that's a new wrinkle. That's a new wrinkle to the story, man. That's complicated. I don't know.
Whether or not to answer Nick's question, whether or not it's a fireable offense, I think it is. Just because you're an NBA general manager, you should be held to a pretty higher standard. Whether it was your wife or you, you can't go back. Like if he was found guilty and they didn't fire him, he's still a representative of the players, and he's recruiting players to not only join the 76ers. How do you think, LeBron is their big free agent prize this offseason? You think Bryan Colangelo found guilty of doing this stuff? Do you think LeBron is going to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to join your squad? I've actually heard a rumor that the 76ers will be better off firing Colangelo to get LeBron to come to them, because he'll have more power within that front office if Colangelo is gone, and LeBron is the quasi general manager like he kind of is right now in Cleveland.
So what if the story is, and it's found to be, I don't know, believable or not able to be disputed, I guess, that it was his wife who really went rogue and Bryan knew nothing about these accounts that she was doing on the side? What if that's the case?
That's tough. I mean, it's life isn't fair is what I would say as I'm firing him, because it's still someone in your family, someone you're married to. So I would think, you got to take responsibility for not only your own actions, but somebody else's within your family. So I would still say peace. See you, Calange.
So could it be the same lawyer to draw up his resignation or firing papers and divorce papers at the same time? Would that be the route we're going there?
Yeah, that would be possible. We'll see if he really loves her.
So I don't know. It's a mess, but it is a tough situation because, as Nick says, childish, yes, but fireable, I just don't know. The only thing that really matters is how Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Paul George, and LeBron James feel about it. How they feel about Bryan Colangelo. Do they know Bryan Colangelo? Do they have any kind of relationship with Bryan Colangelo? Paul George and LeBron James speaking more specifically, because I know that he already has some sort of relationship with his current players, but some of those tweets were involving Joel Embiid and even Markelle Fultz and some of the behind the scenes about his rehabilitation and what was going on there this year with the #1 draft pick in last year's draft. So I don't know that. I'm not sure. We can write about this all day long. Other media outlets can write about this all day long, but unless you know what kind of relationship these players actually have with Bryan Colangelo, then I don't think none of it really matters. The only thing that matters is how those players feel about him. And to me, if they were willing to keep Brett Brown, which I think he was so outcoached in these playoffs this year, particularly in that series against Boston, that I'm not sure how he kept his job. I know there's loyalty there, and I understand that. But to me, this is plain as day. I'm not sure Brett Brown is the coach to guide an elite team. Brett Brown was fine when you're tanking and getting draft picks, okay, and winning 18 games a year. Anybody can. I can do that, okay? I'm not sure he's the coach to lead an elite level team, but they had loyalty. They offered him an extension. So you got that aspect of it. So if they're willing to do that, I'm thinking they're willing to let this whole thing wash over unless the players kind of revolt against it and just not rock the boat and keep on going with what's going. So I don't know, but like I said, it really just depends on how the players feel about it. You may be right though, Dan. It may have to boil down to a PR move to keep the coveted prize of LeBron James in your scope. And I don't know. But just again, another one of these stories that we probably would never know of 20, 25 years ago. It wouldn't have happened 20, 25 years ago. So now it's the age of social media. Anyone can post anything out there, and it becomes news relevant. So I don't know. Weird. We'll keep it. I actually heard there was supposed to be a decision about that today. So since I haven't got a ESPN notification, I'm not sure he's going to get fired.
Yeah, I think they're still probably reviewing the details. I think we'll probably find out soon, probably before this podcast is even out to everybody. But it'll be interesting to see what they do because, the 76ers have a chance to be a championship caliber team with, the addition of a couple pieces because they're young, they're talented, and they can make things happen next year and kind of shake up the NBA. So it'll be interesting. This is huge, that front office decision.
They're major players now. That is no doubt. So appreciate the question, Nick. Take care of Judy, okay? We'll talk to you soon. The last question on this podcast, let's hear from our man, Gilly Stevens. So this is another one, Dan. It's a silly, silly story that I don't even know why it was ever even printed, but it has to do with your Dallas Cowboys. It goes like this. Hey, Dan, how do you feel about Zeke and Dak buying a whole bunch of dick guns Gilly Stevens. And I'll be honest with you, Dan, when I first saw this, you had to fill me in on what was going on here. Send me a link because I didn't really know nothing about this. But what I thought I interpreted it when I first read it was that Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott went out and bought all the guns Dick's Sporting Goods had. That's what my first thought was. Like, damn, that's pretty nice of those guys. They wanted to support Dick's. They bought all the guns they had. So, but no, it wasn't that.
No, they bought, I guess, a whole bunch of Dick Squirt guns. But here's in Gilly's question. I don't know if he knows this, but this is a big story if you're a Cowboys fan because it shows how good of a season we're about to have. So not only are Dak and Zeke getting along, buying some Dick guns, but the whole reason they bought these Dick guns is because they took the entire offensive line on vacation. They took them on vacation, rented a boat. They're having a blast, and I think it's Miami or I don't know, someplace warm where you're enjoying it. But
it was someplace in Florida.
Exactly. So if you're taking out your teammates, showing the love to the offensive line, that's going to bring a great locker room together.
But that's not what the story was about. That's not where the media, everyone who talked about this and broke it, was focusing in on.
Right. And so, I mean, that shows the new age of media and where the story goes. But I think the underlying story is that they're spending time together and they're building that bond for the season. And despite my cat formerly being named after him and him hanging up on my wall, Dez Bryant not being in that locker room could end up being a positive for the Cowboys. So this could be just another sign of that. And I'm excited for the season because it's not like the Cowboys don't have talent. They just have to put it all together. And I think this is a step one to do that, to achieve, team success.
Yeah, it's actually a great thing. Just the focus is or happened to go on this, childish, sophomoric type of storyline, which we would have known nothing about. Athletes, entertainers, we would have known nothing about their personal lives as much, 30 years ago. No chance, no way. Now, everything they do is in the media. It's made a story out of. Now, was it silly? Yeah, it was silly. It's a great bonding moment, I guess. Very intimate moment for some guys to share some, dick squirting guns, especially in a strip club, and in a bar. I don't know. I didn't really meant to force that, accusation upon them. They weren't in a strip club, not at that particular moment. It was just a bar, Alex's bar or something like that. Just a bar. But yeah, this stuff wouldn't have been even reported on, 30 years ago. It's nothing. Who cares? You're right, Dan. The real story is the bonding of the offensive linemen and these guys that they're going to have to protect here in the next few months. So, but yeah, just all this stuff, even the Jameis Winston situation. Remember that on the table, that comment he made about 3 years ago while still at Florida State, that wouldn't even have made news, 30 years ago. It's a college kid saying something stupid and sophomoric. So what? We're going to put that in the news. So this is just one of those things that kind of blew up. But I kind of agree with you. The real story should be the bonding of the offensive line, having a good time. Let's hope it translates into some success, So, and hey, how about this we got to rename Des the Kitty. I mean, we really do. How about Tavanya?
What?
Tavanya.
No.
Yeah, one of your new weapons there, It's got to be a feminine name, though. See, the whole thing is, it's a female cat, Dan.
I understand that, but it's tough to get out of the Des name calling because that's what she comes to. So I got to get the formerly known as really quick and then Des.
Have you ever just tried calling her, here, kitty, kitty? Would she respond to that too?
Des the kitty. Baby kitty. We call her baby kitty a little bit. Hey, baby kitty. No.
Okay. But yeah. So great stories. That was a lot. That was a lot to talk about. A lot of interesting topics there. So, but man, can't wait for football season. So what is the outlook for your Cowboys, Dan? What are you seriously, realistically expecting this year?
Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough. That's where we're going to end this particular podcast. But thanks for all the questions, guys. Look for future podcasts. Like I said, we're going to drop that podcast where Ryan Thomas talks about his explanation of why he thinks Alvin Kamara is number one in the world this year, and backs up that trade offer, I guess, from Jacob Gurney was offered. And also on that podcast, we ranked quarterbacks, that particular podcast, and we're going to drop that. So some fantasy quarterback rankings coming out.
If you say so, yes, I believe you.
I don't remember, but it was great fantasy football information. So that coming out, more mailbag questions coming out. So check out the future podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com and all the changes in the site. Hope you guys like it. Keep submitting questions. Keep submitting your feedback. For my co-host, Dan Shaw, I am Brandon Reed. Till next time, peace.